I remember the day I got a concussion. I think it was 2003. I was on a horse, and for whatever reason, we were riding near some train tracks. So when Thomas the Engine came roaring on by, the horse I was on freaked out. It turned into the Black Stallion, and since my foot was stuck in the saddle straps, Seabiscuit took me like 100 yards before it leaped, and I cracked my head. And yet, the thing that scared me the most that year was this. Growing up, every winter and every summer we went to Mexico, and for those wondering, yes, it's just like Miguel and Coco. We pretty much just stole guitars and went to the afterlife. But whenever we weren't doing that, we pretty much just played Super Nintendo. Super Mario Bros. 3 on the Super Nintendo every single day. I bring this up because I'm not the biggest video gamer, right? Like, I obviously love movies, I dabble into music, but when it comes to video games, that's like my biggest memory of it, because I remember specifically, I still know the emotions of when your palms get sweaty, you're trying to keep the controls steady right here, like it's going to affect what you're doing on the screen, just so you don't die and you're almost having like a mini heart attack. That feeling right there is exactly why I think video game movies never work. In a video game, you're actually a participant. Like, that story is not going to move along until you beat that level. In a movie, it's passive, right? Like, when you think a character's going to die, you know there's an hour 40 in the movie. Alicia Vikander ain't going nowhere. And while I know that a lot of videos have been made on this, like a bunch of them, I just want to reinforce my stance on a little thing that I truly believe is going to take over, and that is VR. So without getting like too political on my VR stance, pretty much I just want to sum it up in 3 points. And the first, of course, is the VR experience. Look, I'm not the biggest fan of 3D, right? Like, it's not to say that I haven't seen good 3D movies. There's been some that have done it well, but for the most part, I don't like it because I see it darken the screen. I don't like wearing those big Harry Carey glasses over my face when I'm going to the theater, right? Many times it's like reusable ones, so I can like still see the oil from whoever was like eating popcorn, but it ain't coming from the popcorn. I've seen a couple of 4DX movies, and the same thing with that is that the movies aren't built for that medium. Like, they just add stuff to it. So when I saw the Magnificent Seven, I think it was the remake, pretty much when my chair's doing this the whole time, I can't tell if I'm riding a horse or what's going on. I think the Netflix side of things also goes hand in hand with this, because, you know, there's that whole debate that, oh, some people don't want Netflix to flourish because they think it's going to be the death of the theater. I don't think that's an issue. I think both mediums can flourish, and I see the same thing with VR. I don't think that means it's going to ruin the theater experience. I think it's going to enhance it, right? Like, of course, there's always going to be those people who are going to complain when a VR thing is going to be released. I'm telling you, it's the future. When it gets released, and they're going to be arguing that they just want the 2D version of it, even though it's a virtual reality experience. That's like asking for PG porn. I think because of the specific technology that's used for it, that it's going to encourage more people to go to the theater, right? And for the people who don't want to go and they just want to like do those experiences at home, just like movies. Movies are released in the theater. Eventually they come to your house. The difference is going to be that, you know, the Oculus Rift set or whatever you use at home isn't going to be as good as the technology in the theater. But the main reason is because of one thing that I experienced at Sundance, right? At Sundance, which is a film festival, and not just any film festival, the film festival that brings up Oscar-nominated movies and winners, had a whole VR segment. One of the things that they pushed a lot with VR is shared experiences. There was one called Chorus, where you're literally interacting with other people virtually. Like, they put you in this whole set getup, and then your virtual body starts interacting with other people. And again, I'm not the biggest video game guy, but I remember buying Battlefront, thinking I could play it at home by my lonesome self, and then it turns out it was a multiplayer thing. Like, in video games, multiplayer has become a huge thing. So when you're able to create something that you're able to experience with other people, and that's something that obviously the world is craving, then you got something on your hands. There was this quote from someone there that they said, the ability to experience a story with another person that you live together rather than watch together will fundamentally change not only the way we connect to stories, but the way we connect with each other. Bro, there was projects in this place that would literally, in real time, 3D scan your body, render it out, and then you were seeing yourself on screen. There was this like hand thing that you would put in, and it looked like this thing right here, and pretty much it changed temperature. So when you had the glasses on and you would see like a dragon breathe on your hand, it would turn warm, and you would pick up a virtual ice cube, and not only would you feel the weight of the ice cube, but how cold it was. VR is going to be the perfect mesh of the two, of like an actual interactive video game and then it also being a movie. It's going to be an experience. It is the future. On top of that, No, I think this is probably the biggest one. You know when you show your friends a movie and like you get upset because they're like looking away on their phone and they're not paying attention? Put them in VR, they can't look away. Obviously, it doesn't matter how much, fans want it, like it. You still need people who kind of need to make it. And I think whenever you have like a new medium, genre, whatever it is, you always need someone who can pioneer it. And it can't just be like anybody else will call it a gimmick. You need someone who has a credit to them, right? So why not get my uncle, multi-Oscar winning Alejandro Gonzalez Inarittu to come in and create something? Because this man, surprisingly, last year, was all about my other uncle. This dude won an Oscar because he made some VR thing. It's this story called Carne y Arena, which in English is translated Flesh and Sand, about what it's like to cross the border. And the Oscar that it won was something that was so special. The last time they gave it out, it was for freaking Toy Story. Now, I obviously don't need to see the VR experience because I'm already on the side. My shorts are dry now. But nonetheless, to get someone like Alejandro Gonzalez Inarittu on top of the VR train is a big push for it. Darren Aronofsky at Sundance actually produced one of the VR experiences that was there. To add to it, for the VR experience that Alejandro did, he got my primo Lubeski to come in and do the cinematography. And this dude has 3 Oscars. He ain't just a schmo with a camera. So to see that, bro, it shows you that obviously there's always going to be those people, right? Now that I'm in the filmmaker section, that are always going to look at it and like be opposed to VR or whatever the new thing is going to be, which is funny to me because those who adore film, at one point, people looked at video as being something that wasn't going to last, and here we are. But trust me, as someone who literally has a channel dedicated to film and how it's cut, colored, coordinated, I don't think any of that's going to go away. But I think it's ridiculous to think that like, just watch a couple of movies. You'll see how things are done differently. Birdman had no cuts in it. So the idea that a movie needs to be, traditionally made, you're just limiting yourself, especially when you don't have a reason for it, right? Like Christopher Nolan, as we all know, is addicted to film reel. Like he probably sleeps in it, uses it as a blanket, but he has a reason for it because he truly believes that the movies that he's making should be experienced, and that is the best way to experience them. As Alejandro has put it, and as I truly believe, it doesn't matter what medium you use. The reason why you're making movies, video games, whatever it is to entertain, but most importantly, to tell a story. Of course, none of it matters at all unless you actually got the money. And I started jotting notes for this video way back when I was at Sundance because of the 7-figure deal that was made to actually acquire a VR experience. And it was actually the one titled Spheres, the one Aronofsky produced, and that one has to do with like black holes and stuff. I actually experienced it, and this is like my only gripe against VR. Headphones were kind of broken when I was trying it. But nonetheless, that's a huge thing because it just takes one person to get the ball rolling. If other studios see that interest is getting peaked from here, once they see somebody else actually spending the money, it's going to grow and grow and grow. Not just for theater experiences, but like I said, there's money to be made at home as more people buy VR sets. Freaking Google has one that's made out of cardboard. It's something that I truly believe we're going to see in a couple of years. I'm not saying that everything's going to turn into Ready Player One or anything, but I'm saying we got to be careful to not become those dudes from WALL-E. And honestly, there's going to be a lot of them that suck, right? There's going to be a lot of trial and error, just the same way that movies had a lot of bad things before we got good ones, before, the technology advanced. And that's just the way that it goes. But I truly believe that while there's going to be all of these gimmicks to try to get things to pop out at you, all that really matters is that the story brings you in. Of class, like trying to train and get a debate or whatever. At the end of the movie, the teacher gets run over by a car. just obliterated. He's just walking in there. Boom. He goes, right, because you see a dying man. What's the first thing you're going to tell a dying man?
You wouldn't say anything. You just kind of call the ambulance, wouldn't you?
You don't call the ambulance, Kai. You call Jesus, and you go up to the man and you say, have you accepted Jesus in your life? Because that's what this man does in the movie.